Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how I installed these soft close doors onto this kitchen cabinet. Let's check it out. All right, in this video today, I'm going to show you how I put these door hinges and these doors on my kitchen sink cabinet. Even my dog is excited to see this one. All right, so I have my board clamped down here, and I have it overhanging the edge of my cabinet there so I can attach my jig to it. Now the width of the board is not so important. What I want to do is I want to place my hinges so that they're inside a little more than they were on my uppers. So when I set up the jig for my uppers, I just use the edge of the jig right there against the bottom and top of the door. But in this case, I want a little bit more space. So all I need is just something to keep the space consistent. And in this case, I'm just going to use my combination square. And the width of that is about 1 inch. So I add an inch to the depth of the distance that the hinge is going to come up into the door. Now I want to know how to put the hinges on the other cabinet. So right there is a little mark that's a center point where that hole is going to go, where that hinge is going to be placed in there. So my attachment bracket for the cabinet needs to hit on that center point. And when I measure it, it's 3.5 inches into that center point, which makes it easy for me to line that up on both sides. So if I use the same width of both top and bottom to set up my jig, it will be 3.5 inches both coming down from the top and going up from the bottom. So now I just got to drill out my hole, and I'm going to use the fast speed or the higher speed for this, and that's going to clean it up nice. And this jig, this is actually set up so that it goes so deep, which is the correct distance in for the depth of my hinges. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I generally, when I have all of my chips in one spot there, I want to go ahead and clean that up, which is what I'm going to do right here. So now I want, before I move the jig, I'm going to test out and make sure that the hole is deep enough in case I need to make any adjustments. I can do that. So I can feel that the hinge is not rocking. It's sitting there completely flush with the top, so I know that I have plenty of room down there. Now setting up the top is exactly the same. I'm going to use my combination square as a guide, give it about a 1 inch reveal from the top, clamp down my jig, and then go ahead and just drill out my other hole for the other hinge. And again, just going to clean out all the chips and go ahead and vacuum up all of the chips to keep the shop clean. Kind of weird, I know, but that is what I've always done. And on the floor too, might as well pick that up. Now again, before I move that jig, I'm going to take another hinge and check out and make sure that that fits in there properly. Because sometimes you don't know, you just may not push all the way down to the stop and may not get that hole exactly the depth that you want it. And by leaving the jig there, it's easy enough to align that. Now you can, realign it if necessary, but it's just easier while the jig is there. So the next step is to screw these hinges into place. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that the backs are square with the face of the door. So what I'm going to do is use, again, my combination square and line it up on the one edge and then attach it to the front edge of that hinge. I'm calling it the front that's facing towards you. And I use a center drill for this, and I make 2 shallow drill holes for my screws there. And the nice thing about these center drills is that they have a little housing on the outside that lines up the drill perfectly centered, so that when you press it down, you get a hole directly in the center of the hole in the hinge. And this is set so it only goes a certain depth, so that it doesn't come through the front of my door, just in case I go too far or forget. So with all of those drilled out, the next step is just to add in the screws and tighten them down to lock in the hinges. And this, by using this method, aligns the hinges perfectly square with the door so that it's easy enough to attach them to the cabinet. Now on the upper hinge here on this particular door, I noticed that once I put the screws down that there was a slight bow to it. You can see that there on the left hinge. And you can see me looking at it there. So what I'm going to do is off camera is I'm going to re-drill out that hole, and it's just a matter of setting up my jig again, aligning it, and adding a little bit more depth to that hole. Okay, so as you recall, I had made a measurement when I was drilling out those holes, and it was 3.5 inches. So what I want to do is I want to get a piece of tape here, and those are the measurements that say that it is to the center of the door. So what I'm doing is I'm placing this tape 3.5 inches, and I'm placing another piece of tape 3.5 inches from the top in the same way. So, and it doesn't have to be exact. I mean, I just got it basically going through a part of it here, so that I'm going to make a line here that's at 3.5 inches, and then come down here and make a line at 3.5 inches. Now this is an inkware ruler, and it really is nice, but you want to make sure that you always start from the inside, because up here has a little bit of an extra, so you just don't want to, do a 3.5 inch measurement here and slide up here and go down 3.5, because you're going to add quite a bit to it. So once I have that 3.5 inch line here, I'm going to take my combination square, and all I got to do is be able to see what the mark is that I made, and line up my combination square and make a nice straight line going across there. So this way I'm marking on my, no, I can't see my line, so I'm going to add another line there. So I'm making a line on the tape, and that way it, oh, there it is right there. Funny, once you put the mark there, you can see it, the tape measure. Right there. So this is our center line for our doors. Now, I can go a little bit above or a little bit below. It doesn't really matter that much. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a jig like I have here. You can make one. You can actually do it just by measurements if you like. But my recommendation to you is whenever you can, always use a jig. It helps prevent errors. Not saying that you won't make them, but it does help prevent them, and it just makes it easier to get everything the same. So centered up, pull that off, and we have our center holes here. And now we can pull that off. And so now we're able to take this piece and put it right on here. And you don't want it to get super tight, because you want it to be a little bit loose so you can make adjustments. But you do want it down to where the flange is fitting somewhat tight. So So I'm going to tighten this down just a little bit more. I don't want it super loose, but I do want to make it so that I can adjust it a little bit. That's a little bit tight on the top one. There we go. So it's just a little bit loose like that. And I'm going to do the same thing on the top here. And like I said, a jig makes life much, much easier. Now, you can make this jig yourself. All you got to do is go 56 millimeters to the hole, to the center of the hole here, and then make these holes 32 millimeters wide. And of course, because we're using European hinges, everything's in meters. Millimeters, I should say. And as you can see, that does make it a little bit easier. And it's just easier to work by using a jig. So there, that's on there. So let's see. So now we'll get these on here. All right, so when I close it, it's a little tight down at the bottom here. So all we have to do is adjust both of these up a little, which is what this adjustment is right here. So once we do that, we still got a little bit of tightness, so we'll go up a little bit higher. And you got about 1/8 of an inch play on this, so if you're off just a tiny bit on the adjustments, it's not going to hurt anything. So yeah, that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is adjust this right here to bring this one out a little. And that's going to tilt the door up some so that it's nice and even across the bottom here, like that. And then this one, I will adjust down. And yeah, see, so that just makes that fit in there just nice. Now, we just head on over and do the other side. Same way. All right, so I'm coming on over this side and I'm going to do the same thing. Set my tape at about 3.5. Coming on in. And 3.5 from the top. Now this time, because I knew that I had to adjust up over on that side, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make my marks at a little bit above 3.5 here. So I'm going to go maybe 1/8 of an inch above 3.5 there, and go 3.5 and 1/8 of an inch above right here too. So I'll take and put my line in here. And again, that's the beauty about using the European hinges, is that you can make adjustments after the fact, which is a big plus. Take my... Now you could actually just hold this in place if you have that ability. I prefer to clamp it in place. That way I know it's locked down well. And I also do hold it with my hand just to make sure that it stays there. And I will make this hole. Come on up to top here. Make these 2 holes. There we go. All right. tape off. And these come with their own screws, so that makes it nice. Now there is an arrow telling you which direction to go forward. Make sure that you follow that. Easy enough to mess up. Trust me on that. Yeah. And again, I'm tightening them down not 100% because I do want to make some up and down shifts if I have to on the doors. So, and once I do make my final adjustments, once I have both the doors together, I will come back and tighten up both these screws here. And that's one thing you should probably not forget about. Actually, there we go. All right. So, there we are. Okay, so this door is a tiny bit tight at the top, not too bad, really. Actually, that fits pretty good. See how close the center is. My center line is pretty close. The same. And you know, I think I may flip these doors around because I do have a little bit of a difference between here and here, so I think I might flip these doors around and see if they work better on the opposite sides. Which, that sometimes can happen because you remember that I custom fit these doors to fit the spaces, so I may have them just on the wrong side here. Now this needs to come down some for sure. Oops, it's going to be a little bit tighter. All right. There you go. Yeah, so let's see how the other side fits. I think that might be the door that's supposed to go on that side. Yeah, there we go. That's looking good. So I'll make a couple quick adjustments now that I have this door over here. Needs to go up. There we are. And yeah, that looks good. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but these doors, when they come in, they go a little further in because there's nothing stopping them. So what I have is I have actually a couple stop blocks to take care of that. I'll show you those in a minute. Okay, so I have these stop blocks that I got that they have a magnetic front piece on, which will help the door close. You don't really need them on these. I could just put a bumper on the front if I wanted to. I could take this off and just put a round soft bumper. But I'll probably leave the magnet on. I think it's a little extra closure there. Make sure it locks in good. Now, what I want to do first is I want to measure in about 1 inch. And so what I'm going to do is set this up at right about 1 inch in. Right there. Okay. So I'm going to make a tiny mark here, I think, just for my 1 inch in. And I'm going to close this door and make sure I have my magnet or my piece of metal on the front of the magnet there that's going to attach to the door. And I want to line this door up so it has the same reveal across here. So what I'm doing is I'm sighting down along here, making sure that this is exactly the same. So once I have that, I'm going to hold this into place. Go with my center. And just put a little screw hole there. And the nice thing about these is that it has some adjustment here, so that once you get the screws in, you can make adjustments to it. Now, two magnets against each other do make it a little bit difficult here. Alrighty, so there we go. So now on this side, I want to make sure that that's parallel with it, and I'm pretty much just eyeballing it. I could take out a measure, but I don't think I need to be that precise. I could regret that later on, saying that. Put that in there. Oops. Like I said, two magnets working against each other. So once you close this, what you can do is, first I'm gonna line this up as square as I can get it. Close this door. Make a little mark on this side, and the bottom. And that way I know exactly where to put this washer onto my door. All right, so the water does have a concave in it, and that's the part that you want to put on the door so that the screw recesses into it. So it's a soft brass, these screws. They tend to pop out, break apart easy, so I'm gonna get something that will work a little better. And the other thing I'm gonna do is make my hole go a little further in. And that'll also, it's a soft close hinge to begin with. You see that when I push it there, it's going to softly close, but then that's also going to make sure that it closes fully by having that magnet there. And that's that's a good little grip on it. So that's a simple way to install these hinges, this little stop here for these doors. And you want to have these stops whenever you have any door that doesn't have a partition between here where it can stop against. You'll put some type of stop almost always on these hinges. Some of them do have little stops that you can adjust in here, but on a soft close I find that it's better to just add a stop there to prevent it from going further in. So now I will just put the other one on the other side and I'll be set to go. All right, so as you can see, I've had time to change my shirt. What happened was my wireless microphone, the battery went dead, so I went through this whole explanation of what I did and completely not usable. So I wanted to show you the drawer. The doors are finished. I actually have the pull-out drawers here all set up, but I'll talk about how I put them on in the next video. And I'm also going to do some flip-out drawers here. Now, these have the soft close hinges. As you can see, they slowly close. And with the magnet there, the magnet's going to grab onto it and make sure that they do close tight. I also put the handles on. If you want to see how I put the handles on, check out this video right here. But right now it's looking pretty good. It's going to be a nice kitchen sink cabinet once I get these drawers in, which you will see in the video following this one. And I hope that you're along for that video. So please do subscribe, hit that notification button so that you know when I post a new video. And I really appreciate you're tagging along this far, please give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Please leave comments. I love comments. I always try to answer your comments within a couple days. So I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.